A police siren cuts through the humid night air, flashing red and blue against the rain-slicked pavement. Officer Reynolds and Officer Delgado sit in their patrol car, watching a blacked-out SUV roll through a stop sign. It's late. Almost 2 a.m. Their shift is nearly over, but this is easy prey, probably some rich guy thinking the law doesn't apply to him. Reynolds smirks. Let's have some fun. Delgado chuckles, reaching for the siren. Lights or full-blown power trip? Reynolds leans forward, eyes narrowing at the car. Let's see what we're dealing with first. They hit the siren and pull the SUV over. It stops. But something feels off. The doors don't open. The windows stay up. Reynolds taps his fingers on the wheel, an unsettling feeling creeping into his stomach. Who just sits there? Before we get back to that, I'd love to know where you're watching this video from today, and if you like these stories, make sure you subscribe because tomorrow's special episode is one you definitely don't want to miss. Los Angeles, midnight. The streets are empty, the neon lights reflecting off a sleek black Aston Martin DBS as it glides through the city. Behind the wheel, Jason Statham. He enjoys the silence, the smooth growl of the engine, and the feel of the night air through the open window. Then, red and blue lights flash in the rearview mirror. Sirens. Pull over to the side immediately, a voice commands over the loudspeaker. Jason exhales, already sensing trouble. He slows down, parks, and rolls down his window. Two overconfident cops step out of their patrol car, smirking as they approach. License and registration, sir. The officer leans in and pauses. His expression shifts to recognition. Well, look who we have here. Jason Statham himself. The second officer snickers. No documents? That's a serious issue, Mr. Hollywood. Jason watches them closely. He's dealt with men like this before, power-hungry cops who think they run the city. Without a word, he reaches for his phone. One call. One name. That's all it takes. He dials. The moment the other person picks up, Jason says just one word. Trouble. On the other end is a man who once commanded the entire U.S. police force. A man with enough influence to make these officers regret every choice they're about to make. The game is on. The officers exchange glances as Jason puts his phone away. They don't know yet, but their lives are about to change forever. Step out of the vehicle. The first cop places a hand on his holster, making it clear this isn't just a routine stop anymore. Jason smirks but obliges. He moves slow, deliberate, not scared, just entertained. You think you're above the law, huh? The second cop taunts. Jason says nothing. Instead, he watches as a black SUV pulls up behind the patrol car. The tension shifts instantly. The door swings open. Out steps a towering figure in a tailored suit, exuding authority with every step. Richard "Rick" Callahan, former U.S. police chief, retired but still the most feared man in law enforcement circles. The officers' faces go pale. Problem, gentlemen? Callahan's voice is deep and steady, like a man who's seen and done it all. The cops are frozen. This isn't just some random rich guy with connections, this is a legend. And they just messed with his best friend. The two officers exchange a glance as Jason puts his phone away. They see his calm demeanor, his unwavering smirk, and they don't like it. They're supposed to be in control. The taller cop, Officer Reynolds, narrows his eyes. Who did you just call? Jason doesn't answer. He simply rests both hands on the roof of his Aston Martin, his body language relaxed but unreadable. The second cop, Officer Delgado, steps closer. His hand is dangerously close to his holster. He wants to intimidate. I asked you a question. Jason exhales, tilting his head slightly as if he's amused. You'll find out soon enough. Then, as if on cue, a black SUV turns onto the street, moving slowly, deliberately. The engine hums with the unmistakable power of a government-grade vehicle. Inside, someone is watching. The temperature of the night seems to drop. The officers straighten up. Something isn't right. The SUV rolls to a smooth stop behind the patrol car. The doors don't open immediately. Instead, there's a long, excruciating pause. A presence is being established. The two officers exchange another glance. This time, there's uncertainty in their eyes. Finally, the back door of the SUV swings open. A single polished shoe touches the pavement. Then another. And then, he steps out. Richard "Rick" Callahan, former director of the U.S. National Police Force. A man whose influence still lingers in every department across the country. He straightens his suit, then looks directly at the two officers. Reynolds and Delgado freeze. They know that name. Everyone in law enforcement knows that name. And Jason Statham just called him directly. The officers suddenly feel small. A few minutes ago, they were powerful, cops with badges, guns, and the authority to arrest one of the biggest action stars in the world. Now they feel like rookies who just walked into the wrong precinct. Callahan takes a slow step forward. His stare is heavy. Calculating. Problem, gentlemen? His voice is deep, controlled, and carries an authority that doesn't need to be proven, it simply exists. Reynolds clears his throat, trying to regain composure. Sir, this is... Callahan holds up one finger. Not a word. Not a move. Delgado swallows hard. A single finger just shut them down. Jason, watching from the side, smirks slightly. Missed you, Rick. Callahan gives him a small nod before turning his attention back to the officers. I assume you two are aware of who I am? Silence. The tension thickens. Delgado opens his mouth, but nothing comes out. Reynolds finally manages a stiff nod. Yes, sir. Callahan takes another step forward. The officers instinctively step back. They don't even realize they did it. Jason leans against his car, watching with mild amusement. Callahan clasps his hands behind his back. His stance is military. His posture, unshakable. I've seen officers like you before, he says, his tone neutral, but the weight of it pressing down on them. Young. Eager. Hungry for power. But do you know the difference between real power and borrowed power? Neither officer responds. Callahan doesn't need them to. He answers for them. Real power isn't a badge. Pause. Real power is what happens when you take the badge away. He lets that sink in. The officers blink, their brains processing what that means. And then, Callahan pulls out his phone. Callahan presses a single button and puts the phone on speaker. Director Matthews, Internal Affairs. The voice on the other end is sharp, professional, and dangerously attentive. Reynolds and Delgado go rigid. Internal Affairs. The division that investigates cops. The kind of people who don't care about officer loyalty. The kind of people who end careers. Callahan speaks calmly. Matthews, I have 2 officers here who attempted an illegal arrest for personal gain. I assume you'll take care of it? There's a beat of silence. Then, absolutely, sir. I'll have them suspended within the hour. The officers' faces turn ghost white. This isn't just a slap on the wrist. This is the end. Delgado's mouth opens, then closes. Reynolds looks like he's trying to wake up from a nightmare. Suspended, he blurts, voice cracking. Wait, hold on, that's... Click. Callahan hangs up the phone. The sound is final. Jason watches with interest, arms crossed. He's seen a lot of fights. But watching men lose everything in real time? That's a different kind of knockout. Now the cops are sweating. Delgado steps forward, hands slightly raised. Sir, this was just a misunderstanding. Callahan raises an eyebrow. A misunderstanding? Delgado nods too fast. Yeah. I mean, we thought he was breaking the law, so we. Callahan cuts him off. No. What you did was abuse your authority. Reynolds jumps in. We were just doing our jobs. Jason chuckles. Your job isn't to harass people because they're famous. Your job is to enforce the law. Silence. Reality is setting in. Reynolds suddenly looks years older. Delgado looks sick. They realize that this isn't something they can talk their way out of. This isn't a traffic stop anymore. This is their downfall. Callahan takes one last look at them. And then, he turns around. Jason pushes off his car and walks alongside him. Not a word is spoken. Not a glance back. The message is clear, they aren't worth another second of time. The black SUV's doors open. Callahan steps inside. Jason climbs into his Aston Martin. The engines roar to life. The officers? They just stand there. Frozen. Ruined. Their world just collapsed in a matter of minutes. And it all started with one phone call. One of the cops finds his voice. This is police business, sir. You should. Shut up. Callahan interrupts. His tone isn't loud, but it's absolute. The officer swallows hard. Do you know who you're talking to? Callahan steps closer. His piercing gaze could crack concrete. The second officer tries to act tough. It doesn't matter who you are. Statham was driving without a license. That's against the law. Callahan smirks. You want to talk about the law? He pulls out his phone, presses a single button, and puts it on speaker. This is Director Matthews of Internal Affairs. What's the emergency, Mr. Callahan? The officers go stiff. Internal Affairs. The people who investigate dirty cops. Callahan doesn't even look at them. These two officers just attempted an illegal arrest for personal gain. I assume you'll take care of it? There's silence. Then. Absolutely, sir. I'll have them suspended within the hour. The color drains from the officers' faces. They just made the worst mistake of their careers. For a long, agonizing moment, no one moves. The street is silent except for the low hum of the SUV's idling engine and the distant sound of Los Angeles nightlife. The two officers, Reynolds and Delgado, stand frozen, staring at Jason and Callahan. It was supposed to be a simple traffic stop. They were in control. Now their hands feel too empty. Their badges feel too heavy. Callahan just ended their careers with a single phone call, and they know it. Delgado's breath quickens. He looks at Reynolds, eyes wide, as if waiting for him to fix this. This can't be real. His voice is barely a whisper. Reynolds swallows hard. He forces himself to straighten up. No, this isn't over yet. His entire life, he climbed through the ranks by being ruthless. He won't go down without a fight. He steps forward. Sir, Mr. Callahan, this was all a misunderstanding. Callahan doesn't even turn. Reynolds grits his teeth. Sir, please, listen. Callahan lifts a single finger. Again. And again, silence falls. Reynolds feels his chest tighten. He just got shut down like a disobedient rookie. And Jason? He's leaning against his car, arms crossed, watching it all with the smirk of a man who's already won. Delgado, still trying to grasp at hope, stammers out a plea. Sir, we didn't know. If we had known who he was, we would have never. Callahan turns his head slightly. Not much. Just enough to let them know he's listening. Let me get this straight, he says, voice calm but razor sharp. You're telling me that if Jason Statham were just some ordinary guy, you still would have done this? Silence. Reynolds sucks in a sharp breath. Delgado freezes. Because that's exactly what they just admitted. They weren't enforcing the law. They were enforcing their own egos. Jason lets out a low chuckle. You two really don't know when to stop digging, do you? Reynolds looks away. He finally sees it. The hole he's in is too deep. The last few minutes have unraveled his entire life, his career, his future, his reputation. And the worst part? It's his fault. He could have just done his job. Instead, he played dirty. And now, he's being buried alive under the consequences. Delgado wipes his forehead, suddenly realizing he's sweating. For years, both of them wielded their badges like weapons. People feared them. Civilians never argued. Other cops backed them up. But Callahan? Callahan isn't afraid. And Jason isn't backing down. For the first time, their badges feel useless. They were supposed to be the ones giving orders. Now, they're the ones taking them. This is what real power looks like. Not flashing lights. Not a uniform. Just a man who can ruin them with a phone call. Reynolds takes a shaky step forward. His voice is weaker now, the edge of arrogance completely gone. Please. One word. Pathetic. Desperate. Callahan finally turns around. His expression is unreadable, but his eyes? Ice cold. You want me to help you? His voice is impossibly steady. After everything you just tried to do? Reynolds opens his mouth. Nothing comes out. He has no defense. Delgado looks like he's on the verge of throwing up. Jason shakes his head. Pathetic. A patrol car speeds down the street in the distance. Reynolds and Delgado instinctively glance at it. For years, they felt safe when they saw one. Not anymore. Now, it's a reminder of what they just lost. They aren't part of that world anymore. They aren't the hunters. They're the hunted. Their careers are over. Their names? Soon to be plastered all over the news. They won't be able to get jobs in law enforcement ever again. And the worst part? It took less than 10 minutes to destroy everything they built. Callahan lets out a slow sigh. I don't like men like you. The words hit harder than any punch. Reynolds clenches his fists, but he doesn't have the courage to argue anymore. Delgado's hands are shaking. Jason steps closer, looking both men in the eye. You picked the wrong guy to mess with. Reynolds looks down at his feet. He can't even look at them anymore. Callahan tilts his head slightly. Let's go, Jason. And just like that, they turn and walk away. Jason climbs into his Aston Martin. Callahan gets into the black SUV. Their engines roar to life. Reynolds and Delgado? They just stand there. They don't move. They don't speak. They just watch as their careers drive away from them. The black SUV disappears into the night. The Aston Martin follows. And then, silence. Just two men in police uniforms, standing in the middle of the street, completely and utterly powerless. Eventually, they hear footsteps approaching. Two new officers. But they aren't here to back them up. One of them holds out his hand. Turn in your badges. Internal Affairs will see you in the morning. Reynolds closes his eyes. Delgado stares at the pavement, refusing to look at anyone. They both reach for their badges. Slowly. Hesitantly. And then, they let them go. The weight of metal leaves their hands. And with it, everything they ever were. The officers panic. Wait, hold on, this is a misunderstanding. Callahan just stares at them. It's not. The sound of his phone clicking shut is like a death sentence. One cop turns to Jason. Come on, man, tell him we didn't mean anything by it. Jason tilts his head. You wanted to arrest me 5 minutes ago. Now you want my help? The first cop stammers. The second one looks like he might throw up. They aren't just getting suspended. They're getting blacklisted. No department will touch them after this. And they know it. Los Angeles never sleeps. But for Reynolds and Delgado, the city has never felt quieter. They stand on the curb, their patrol car still running, but it doesn't belong to them anymore. Their badges, gone. Their authority, shattered. Their future? Uncertain. The streetlights above cast long shadows, stretching across the pavement, almost as if the world itself is mocking their downfall. And the worst part? This is only the beginning. Reynolds runs a hand through his hair, his fingers trembling slightly. He turns to Delgado, his voice lower than a whisper. This isn't happening. Delgado doesn't answer. He just stares at the ground, his jaw clenched so tight it looks like it might break. Everything feels surreal. Just an hour ago, they were officers. Respected. Feared. Now they're just two guys in uniforms that don't mean anything anymore. A harsh truth settles in their stomachs like lead. Once the badge is gone, so is the protection. A buzz from Reynolds' phone makes his heart jump. For a moment, he hopes it's internal affairs saying there's been a mistake. But when he looks at the screen, it's worse. A news notification. He taps it with shaking hands. Breaking news: 2 LAPD officers suspended for alleged misconduct during traffic stop involving Jason Statham. His stomach drops. It's already out. Within minutes, their phones explode. Messages. Calls. Social media notifications. People they know. People they don't. Friends. Family. Strangers. And the comments? Brutal. These guys deserve to lose everything. Power-tripping cops. So they thought they could mess with Jason Statham? LMAO, idiots. Hope they never work again. The streets are safer without them. Reynolds grips his phone so hard it feels like it might snap. Delgado? He doesn't even check his. He already knows what's waiting for him. And it's too much. A new message comes through. This time, it's worse than the comments. Chief Dawson, you're both officially terminated. Do not return to the station. Internal affairs will handle the rest. Reynolds reads it 3 times, hoping he misread it. He didn't. This isn't a suspension anymore. It's a firing. He feels like he's falling through the earth. Delgado finally looks at him. Well? Reynolds swallows hard. We're done. Delgado doesn't even react. He just nods. Like a man who's already accepted his fate. Reynolds dials a number. His wife. It rings. And rings. And rings. Then, voicemail. He tries again. Nothing. He checks their text messages. His last one, sent before all this, was love you. See you soon. Now. Don't come home tonight. His blood runs cold. Delgado takes a deep breath. Then he does the same. Calls his girlfriend. Straight to voicemail. Text messages? Left on read. The people they thought would stand by them aren't even willing to pick up the phone. It's sinking in now. They're alone. Completely. Utterly. Alone. A car slows down near them. The driver rolls down the window. A young guy with his phone out, recording. Yo, you're those cops, right? The ones who messed with Statham? Reynolds freezes. Delgado clenches his fists. Drive away, kid. The guy laughs. What, you gonna arrest me? Oh wait, you can't. Reynolds feels something he hasn't felt in years. Fear. Before, if someone talked back to him, he could shut them down. Now, he's just another guy with no power left. And the world knows it. A second car stops. Then a third. People are recognizing them. More phones come out. Someone shouts from across the street. Hey, how's unemployment treating you? Laughter. Mockery. A few months ago, they would have laughed back. Now they just want to disappear. Delgado grabs Reynolds by the arm. We need to leave. Now. They get in their car, the one that isn't even theirs anymore, and speed off. But as they drive through the city, they realize something horrifying. There's nowhere to go. They aren't welcome at the station. They aren't welcome at home. They aren't even safe on the streets. They made a fatal mistake. And now? They're paying the ultimate price. The cops, once arrogant and overconfident, now look like lost children. Callahan sighs. This is what happens when you let power go to your head. The officers stare at the ground. They're finished. Jason shakes his head. Next time, pick your battles better. With that, he and Callahan turn away, their careers over in an instant. Reynolds grips the steering wheel so tight his knuckles turn white. The city, which once felt familiar, predictable, controlled, now feels foreign, hostile, dangerous. The badge used to mean something. It used to clear paths, open doors, and shut people up. Now, it's worthless. The moment their names hit the news, everything changed. The world isn't afraid of them anymore. In fact, the world is laughing at them. And that's a feeling they never had to deal with before. They pull into a gas station. A mistake. Inside, a group of guys in hoodies recognize them instantly. They stare. One of them pulls out his phone and whispers something to the others. Reynolds notices. Delgado notices. The weight of being watched is unbearable. They were always the ones doing the watching. Now, they're the ones being watched. The hooded men step closer. Reynolds grabs Delgado's arm. We're leaving. Too late. One of the guys speaks up, voice tripping with amusement. What's up, boys? Ain't you too famous now? Laughter. The others pull out their phones. Recording. Reynolds stiffens. We're not looking for trouble. Another guy smirks. You sure? 'Cause y'all sure like bringing trouble to other people. Delgado steps forward, trying to reclaim some of that lost authority. Back off. The guys laugh again. Or what? You'll call for backup? One of them takes a step closer, standing chest to chest with Delgado. Oh, wait, you don't got backup anymore, do you? Delgado flinches. They feel it now, the shift in power. They aren't the ones holding the gun anymore. They're the ones looking down the barrel. Reynolds grabs Delgado's sleeve and yanks him back. Let's go. They push through the laughter, the cameras, the mockery. As they reach their car, they hear one last comment. Man, karma hits quick, huh? Reynolds slams the door shut. Delgado stares straight ahead, face blank. They peel out of the parking lot, but it doesn't feel like they won. It feels like they ran. Like they're prey now. And they hate it. They drive in silence. No words. No eye contact. Just the realization that everything has changed. Delgado finally speaks. Where are we even going? Reynolds doesn't answer right away. Because he doesn't know. The station is off limits. Their homes? No. They don't belong anywhere anymore. Reynolds pulls out his phone. He scrolls past texts from reporters, ex-colleagues, and even old friends who suddenly stopped answering. He dials a number. His father. The phone rings. And rings. And rings. Then, voicemail. He tries again. Nothing. Delgado watches him. They're not answering, are they? Reynolds doesn't reply. They both know the answer. The moment they lost power, they lost everyone. Reynolds tosses his phone onto the dashboard. Screw this. We still have money. We can rebuild. Delgado stares at him. Rebuild? Do you even hear yourself? Our careers are over. Reynolds clenches his jaw. No. Not yet. We just need to lay low. Delgado lets out a bitter laugh. Lay low where? The whole city knows our faces. Reynolds doesn't answer. Because Delgado is right. Delgado finally checks his phone. The moment he does, his breath catches in his throat. Oh, no. Reynolds glances over. What? Delgado turns the screen toward him. A viral post. A video. It's them. At the gas station. The recording. Caption? Watch, ex-cops get a taste of their own medicine after messing with Jason Statham. The comments are endless. And brutal. Damn, they look scared. Where's that tough guy act now? They can't walk down the street without getting clowned. Love to see it. Reynolds feels sick. Delgado goes pale. Because now, the whole world sees them as a joke. Reynolds grips the wheel, but his hands are shaking. Delgado closes his eyes, trying to breathe through the nausea. Jason Statham didn't just ruin their jobs. He ruined who they were. And now, everywhere they go, they're a walking, talking punchline. They weren't just fired. They weren't just humiliated. They were erased. Meanwhile, Jason Statham lounges in a rooftop bar, whiskey in hand. Across from him, Callahan watches the city lights. Jason takes a slow sip. Think they learned their lesson? Callahan chuckles. Oh, they'll be learning it for a long time. Jason smirks. Good. Some people need to be reminded what real power looks like. He leans back. Relaxed. Unbothered. While somewhere, out in the city, two ex-cops sit in a car, too afraid to move. Their fear is permanent now. Because once you've felt what it's like to be powerless, you never forget it. Two LAPD officers dismissed for corruption. Internal Affairs confirms abuse of power. Their names are plastered everywhere. No police force will ever hire them again. Jason watches the report with a smirk. Karma moves fast when you mess with the wrong people. Reynolds and Delgado sit in their car. The engine is off. The world outside keeps moving, cars passing, people walking, life continuing as if nothing changed. But for them, everything has changed. Their careers. Their reputations. Their identities. Reynolds grips the steering wheel, his knuckles bone white. We need to do something. His voice is hoarse, empty. Delgado exhales slowly. Like what? Neither of them has an answer. Because there isn't one. The damage isn't just in the streets. It's everywhere. Delgado refreshes his phone screen. More posts. More comments. More videos. And they're getting worse. Fired cops spotted at a gas station. Looking scared. Man, the way they walked away. Like little kids who got caught stealing. Statham destroyed these guys. This is better than his movies. Thousands of views. Tens of thousands. Reynolds snatches the phone from Delgado's hands. Stop looking at it. But it's too late. The whole world is watching their downfall. And enjoying every second of it. Reynolds dials a number. His last hope. An old friend from the force. Someone who's been through the dirt with him. Someone who wouldn't turn his back. It rings. And rings. And then, hey, this is Carter. Leave a message. Reynolds' stomach drops. He tries again. Voicemail. Delgado shakes his head. They're done with us, man. Reynolds refuses to believe it. He dials another number. Nothing. Another. No answer. One after another, the people they once trusted are gone. They were supposed to be brothers in blue. But now? Now they're just two disgraced names people are pretending they never knew. Delgado leans his head against the window. We're ghosts now. The words sting. Not because they aren't true, but because they are. Every call ignored. Every text unanswered. Their old world? Gone. And no one is coming to save them. Reynolds can't sit still. His leg bounces. His fingers drum against the wheel. His breath comes in short bursts. This isn't over. His voice is shaky, but his eyes are manic. We can fix this. Delgado doesn't even react. We can talk to internal affairs, maybe file an appeal. Delgado turns his head slowly. Are you insane? His voice is flat. They're not going to help us. They don't care. Reynolds shakes his head violently. No. No, we're not just gonna sit here and let them take everything. Delgado laughs. A bitter, broken laugh. They already did. Reynolds' face twitches. His hands are shaking. And for the first time, Delgado sees something in his eyes that scares him. Reynolds suddenly slams his fist into the dashboard. No! We don't just give up. We don't. Crack. His knuckles split open, blood smearing across the plastic. Delgado jumps. He's never seen Reynolds like this. Not in years. Not even in their worst cases. This isn't frustration anymore. This is something else. Something darker. Reynolds slumps back into his seat, chest heaving. The silence between them is thick, suffocating. Delgado finally speaks. We can't fix this. The words are simple. But they land like a death sentence. And this time? Reynolds doesn't argue. Because deep down, he knows it's true. By morning, the news cycle explodes. Every headline carries their names. Every station talks about them. And the worst part? They aren't even the main characters of their own story. Every article, every video, every interview? It's all about Jason Statham. His name dominates the headlines. Their downfall? Just footnotes in his story. A side plot in his legend. And that? That hurts more than anything. Delgado suddenly speaks. We should leave town. Reynolds blinks. What? Leave. Go somewhere else. Start fresh. Reynolds wants to laugh. But he doesn't. Because, for the first time, he doesn't have a better idea. They have nowhere to go here. They have no future here. Maybe running is the only thing left. Reynolds pulls up to a liquor store. They need something to numb this. He steps inside while Delgado waits in the car. But as he approaches the counter, he hears whispers. Behind him. Two guys. Talking about him. One of them chuckles. Man, you see those ex-cops trending? These guys are done. The other one shakes his head. Bro, they'll never work again. No one will even hire them as security guards. Reynolds' blood turns to ice. They don't know he's standing right there. They're just saying what everyone else is thinking. His grip tightens around the bottle in his hand. For the first time, he feels what it's like to be truly invisible. Not feared. Not respected. Just nothing. And the worst part? There's no way back. One of the officers, desperate, ruined, tries to reach. Please. Just give me one chance. Callahan looks up. You had your chance. You wasted it. The officer lowers his head. It's over. Jason. You always have my back, Jason says. Callahan smirks. That's what friends are for. The city keeps moving, the lights shining bright. But for those two corrupt cops, the lights have gone out forever. Game over.